Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Zoe and this is Found Finances. Today I wanted to go over my student loan journey and walk you through how I ended up being able to pay off $29,000 in student loans before I graduated from undergrad. And I was kind of inspired to create this video from the recent federal announcement that they would be suspending or freezing interest on many federal, or well, basically all federal student loans for the immediate future until September. And that kind of got me thinking just about how I was able to pay it off, my loans, and how interest impacted me. And so anyways, that was kind of the inspiration for this video. I'm going to be doing a whole set of COVID-19 related videos. That'll be a different kind of subset from my normal videos on some more just generalized financial tips and tricks. These will be more honed towards unemployment, if you should be expecting to get money or not from the government during this time, and then some other special little videos specifically related to the pandemic situation going on right now. But today I wanted to talk to you more about something generally more normal, which is my student loans and how I ended up paying them off. So I want to walk you guys through how I did it, and then go over the main takeaways that you guys can get from my experience, and then those things that were more of a fluke that I couldn't really prepare for and that ended up helping or hurting me in the long run. That wasn't really like a due diligence or a trick that I knew that helped me do it faster than other people or other situations. And so I'm going to start off with like a timeline. We're going to first start with high school and then go through every year of college that I was paying off my loans. So high school, then freshman, sophomore, and junior year of college. And then we'll end with some reflections on like the biggest tips that I learned while going through this experience. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so my concept of saving really started in high school, and I, at that time, was really saving just to save. I'd known from my parents that that was a smart thing to do. So when I got my first part-time job, that I just started saving a portion of whatever I was making just for whatever. I didn't have anything I was specifically saving towards. It wasn't like a trip or anything. I was just doing it to do it. And then on top of that, during that experience, I was starting to apply to universities and colleges and figure out where I was going to go. And one of the main things that my parents kept pushing was that money wasn't an object. Money shouldn't be the thing that determined where I was going to go to school or not. And so I was applying everywhere. And I really honestly didn't want to stay close to home. I was like, let's go on a journey or an adventure to somewhere new and super far away. So I went to the other side of the country. That's what I ended up doing. But when I started getting into schools and started seeing how much tuition cost especially when you went out of state or to a private institution, my family and I realized that we hadn't saved enough money to cover all of the expenses of school. And so that meant that I would have to take out a student loan if I wanted to go to any of these private institutions that I was excited about that cost upwards of $40,000 a year. So it ended up being that my decision was heavily influenced by the object of money, which it seems like it's almost impossible not to have your decisions influenced by that in the educational world, unfortunately. And so it came down for me between University of Southern California and Northeastern University in Boston. And if I was to go to USC, I would be taking out around $80,000 of loans for my undergraduate education, which, just pro tip, don't do it. Not worth it. Undergrad today is not worth what it was when our parents were going through this. Just not worth that much debt. And then through Northeastern, I got a little bit of a scholarship, and so it ended up that my loan was going to be around $29,000, or the maximum unsubsidized student loan offered by the federal government. So how I got that was I applied through the FAFSA, which I can do a video tutorial on how you go through that, what the FAFSA even is, and what your options are to get out of it. And so quickly, just who can qualify for this, and again, I can go over this in a better, more in-depth informational video, but the direct unsubsidized loan from the federal government is available to both undergrad and graduate students and is not based on financial need. So anyone can apply for this and get this loan. And honestly, at the time when I was 18 and I took out that loan, I had no idea what that meant. I just knew I was getting money. It was a very abstract concept. Wasn't thinking about how paying off works or interest rates or anything like that. I was just like, cool, I get to go to university, I'm excited about, and I'll kind of figure it out later. But also, I had heard so many sob stories, and one of the biggest conversations that my parents and I were having was they were worried that me taking out a lot of debt or taking out a lot of loans and ending up in debt was going to be really detrimental to my future. And so they were really concerned about me doing that. That was one of the main reasons I didn't go to USC, because $80,000 was just such a mountain that was really intimidating to like climb, basically. And so I, through that like process and through those conversations, came to the decision that I was really determined these loans weren't going to be a burden to me, and that this wasn't going to set me back or be something that would keep me from buying a home later on or starting my life when I wanted to start my life. Whatever that means. Another thing I can talk to you guys about later is the statistics of what is delayed when people are overwhelmed in debt, or not even overwhelmed, but just have some form of loans or debt on their plate, and how that can impact life and how that also overall negatively impacts our economy. So just a quick thought to ponder is that, right, the federal government is giving us money, but in turn we have to pay it off plus interest, so they're profiting off of us and our educational experiences. And by putting us in those situations, that puts stress on us financially, and financial stress is one of the biggest contributors to delays in big life decisions, right? And so when you can't buy a home when you want to and you have to wait 5 or 10 more years to do that, or you delay in starting a family because you're not financially secure enough to raise children, that ultimately stops money from going into the economy when it otherwise would have gone in at that time, because people are in debt. And so if the government is so interested in, and I'm not trying to be political in any way here, but if our government institutions are driven by the idea of boosting our economy, right, it's a very short-sighted lens to look at student loans being a positive or profitable thing for the federal government, because they're, raking in interest off of this, so technically profiting. But in the long term, it's really actually hurting our economy and delaying things that wouldn't otherwise be pushed back so far. So anyways, that's a little tangent just on maybe my desire for free access to education nationally. But anyways, let's get back to my student loan journey. Okay, so freshman year, I'm in Boston. I'm going to Northeastern University, and I've decided my main financial priority is to pay off my loans as quickly as possible. So in that time during high school when I'd been working and saving, I'd saved about $4,000, and that was over the course of maybe 2.5 years. And so I decided that automatically all of that $4,000 would be going towards my student loan, and then I arbitrarily set for myself that I would try and save $1,000 a semester. That wasn't really based off of anything. That wasn't also like, if you save $1,000 a semester, you'll be debt-free by the time you leave school. Because math, if you think about that, 29,000 is not going to do the trick. But I thought, hey, maybe this is a realistic marker. Maybe it's not. I'm just going to test it out and see. So one of my main takeaways is going to be set a limit for yourself and see if it works for you. Things can always be adjustable, but setting those goals can really help you see what is actually feasible in your current situation or not. So really at this point in my student loan journey, I still hadn't broken down how much I would have to be saving per month or per semester to pay off my loans in time or whenever I wanted to. I hadn't really broken down any of those nitty-gritty details of actually how much I was going to owe, because fun fact with the unsubsidized direct student loan from the federal government, because there is a subsidized loan, so unsubsidized, subsidized can be super confusing. Unsubsidized is the one I'm talking about that you don't need to show financial need to get. Interest accrues while you're in school, so your loan is growing in how much you're going to have to pay back while you're still in classes, which is different from the subsidized loan. So if you have the subsidized loan, your interest should not be accruing while you're in university. Just a little tip. But so looking back on my journey, if there was something that I would have done earlier, it would have been plan out and actually look and break down how much I owe right now, how much I'm gonna owe with all this interest that's accruing, and really set up a system, a realistic system of how I'm going to pay that off, or like what it would look like if I wanted to pay it off in 4 years, how much would I have to be doing. Just, playing with little problems and hypothetical situations to see what kind of flow works for you and what's realistic for you. So that'd be another takeaway from my experience. So I ended up working all throughout college, but specifically we're still in my freshman year right now. And because of the fact that I hadn't created a surefire system of calculating how much I was going to have to pay back, I found myself that first freshman year really getting into moments that I would be spiraling and really in a scarcity mindset of how was I going to make enough money? There wasn't enough money. How was I going to balance what I actually wanted to be doing in my personal life with the money that was coming in from the jobs I was working? And unfortunately, this can often be a common side effect when people don't feel in control of their finances. These scarcity, restricted feelings, as well as the anxiety of just where's the money going to come from? How am I going to make enough of it? And just spending so much time worrying, which can really be hopefully eliminated, but at least reduced when you feel prepared and in control of what your plan is and what plan is working for you realistically, not some plan that also adds stress to your life because it's creating unrealistic goals for you to meet that you ultimately keep failing at, maybe, and that failure also just sets you back even further. So creating a plan, A, that is realistic for you, and B, relatively soon in your loan debt journey would be one of my recommendations. So it was the summer after my freshman year that I really sat down and took a look at my loans to see what was really going on. That was the first time I really started to understand what interest was also. I can insert hopefully a screenshot of the Excel sheet that I used during that summer to kind of break down what I would have to be making per semester or per summer session to pay off that money by my senior year. And doing all that math really daunted me because I was only going to be making $8,000 over my $1,000 per semester system. So it really came down to me thinking, okay, I'm just going to have to make bank over the summers, which meant really making around 20 grand over my summers, which sounded intimidating. So sophomore year fall, I stayed on track with my $1,000 a semester. That ended up being fine, but it was then spring of my sophomore year that things got a little wonky for me. So Northeastern University, where I went to school, I just finished my finals 4 days ago, so I guess I don't go there anymore, but is a kind of interesting system set up semester-wise. So they have the co-op program, which is every other semester you go and work full-time in the industry that relates to your major to gain work experience, and you're not taking classes at all. So my spring of my sophomore year was my first co-op experience, and I got a job working for NBC in their news specials room, and that was in New York. So I moved to New York from Boston and I found an apartment. I was getting paid $13.50 an hour and had to pay for all my expenses. I had to pay for rent, transportation, groceries, and then any personal things I'd like to be doing while I was living in Brooklyn, which meant that I wasn't actually saving any money during that semester. I was really just trying to get by on my salary. So at the end of that experience, which was amazing, I fell in love with New York then. I felt really discouraged about my loans. I was like, okay, a semester went by and I couldn't even save $1,000. How in the hell am I gonna actually do this in 4 years? So that was a point where I was kind of realizing and coming to terms with the thought that I would graduate with debt, which most people, if not come to terms with, know that that's a fact for them. But there is a happy ending to this story. So in my junior year, I did the same thing. Fall, I saved $1,000, and in the spring, I went on my second co-op. And this second co-op is what just totally changed my life. And when I was talking about earlier in the video between main takeaways we can look at from my journey and then the kind of flukes or luck of the draw situations that I couldn't prepare for, this co-op is that. So I got an internship as a production assistant at Industrial Light and Magic out in San Francisco. I'm from the Bay Area, so one of the biggest things that I'll talk about right now is the fact that I lived at home and I didn't have to pay rent. That alone saved me so much money. I wouldn't have been able to save a dime in San Francisco rent. So that was a huge contributor. I was also making $17.50 an hour there, which isn't really a lot, but in relation to anything I'd been making before, that was unheard of for me. And also, I was working so many hours that the overtime really added up for me. Yeah, I was on average working about 50 to 55 hours a week. And so before taxes, that came out to around $1,100 a week or so. And on top of not having to pay for rent, I really barely had to pay for groceries because I was staying at home and my parents were kind enough to cook me dinner, and I really only had to fend for myself with breakfast and lunch. There was a kitchen at ILM which had, your basic necessities of oatmeal, whatever. So, my grocery bill was like negligible, really. And because I was working so many hours for around 8 months, I didn't really have a huge social life. All of my friends, too, from home mostly had gone off to do their own other things, or mainly be at school somewhere else. So there weren't a lot of people around also that I knew. That also really helped that I wasn't going out a lot. I could just save my money. I didn't have to spend it on drinks or going out to dinner or what have you. I could really just put that away. But the biggest thing that really made all of the difference in this experience for me was that I started budgeting and saving immediately. For my first week paycheck, I began. So it wasn't that I, was like, oh, cool, I'm making all this money. It's just sitting in my checking account and I'm going to do something with it in a bit. No, I created a system for myself. I figured out, I said, okay, at this time, I needed to make around $16,000 to $17,000 in that 8-month period to pay off the remainder of what I had left on my loan. And so I said, hey, okay, this is how much I need to make. How much am I making in a week? How much can I realistically save in a week? And so I came up with a weekly system. If I put away $588 a week for 8 months, I would come out to roughly $16,000. That's what I said, okay, I'm going to try and do that. Let's see if that works. And I really couldn't see it not working for the reasons I had stated previously. And so first paycheck in, I put away $588, and that's what I did every single week. Yeah, for a while. And at the end of that, that is how I ended up wiping out the majority of my loan. I also made an Excel sheet that listed every transaction deposit rather I made, and I can insert that here too for you guys to just look at every week what I was putting away. I didn't miss a week, and by the end I was able to have enough money that I knew I could pay off my loans when I wanted to, whatever that was going to be in the next month or what have you. One of the biggest takeaways for this experience is that I never thought about this plan as optional. I never thought about putting away that $588 as something I could be doing, or, maybe I didn't have to if I wanted to do something else. It was a done deal. When I said I was going to do it, I was going to do it. It became my number one priority in terms of my finances. And so drinks became optional. Going out to fancy things became optional. All of those things. And yes, you can totally have a debate on, what's worth it and what's not, living life. Again, was talking so critically of delaying, and I'm saying no to things in order to pay off my loans. There are sacrifices or give and takes that come with this kind of responsibility or burden that you've been placed with or decided to take out. So I'm not saying that the experience or journey I had was easy breezy. I got to just have all the fun in the world that I wanted, and also save $30,000 in 3.5 years. That's just a realistic side of it too. There were things that I gave up in order to pay for this. It was really just a matter of what was the most important thing to me. And at that time, it was my future life, and just like my future self, which sitting right here, I was thinking about myself after I've graduated, after I've ended school, and what I wanted to be able to do and what freedoms I wanted. And right now I can tell you it feels really good not to leave knowing that every month I'm going to have to be paying or giving part of my salary to a organization that I could otherwise be doing something else with. I could be saving it for something else. I could be going out to nice drinks. I could be living in a maybe nicer place than I could have if I still had debt. So yeah, ILM became the game changer of my student loan journey, and in the fall of my senior year, this past fall in 2019, I sent in 2 different installments to the like loan handlers. There's an official term, I can't remember it right now, but basically the federal government, once they give you the loan, they kind of send your loan to be managed by another institution. So you're not directly talking with the feds while you're paying off your loans. You're actually talking with like a different type of vendor of sorts. So mine was Ed Financial. So I sent 2 different installments. I can also talk through and explain how you pay off loans, like if you need to know like how withdrawals happen from your accounts, or if you're sending in a physical check, or like what your options are to paying it off, how you do that. I can definitely go over that with you guys as well. But yeah, about 6 weeks after I sent in those 2 installments, I got to go on to the portal where I checked my loans and saw how much was there and see 0, 0, 0, 0. So yeah, my student loan journey and paying off my loans was not a normal experience by any means. I had a lot of help, and I also had the privilege to have people around me to tell me the places to look to start learning about my loans, and really just give me the background knowledge of even vaguely what debts looked like. Yes, I got to do this all before I turned 22, but I had a lot of help along the way. I just want to make that clear for everyone. So yeah, I wanted to just recap some of the tips and takeaways that hopefully can help you from my experience. So the first one was making it a priority, making off paying your loans a financial priority for you, and that everything else, or mostly everything else, is secondary to that. And again, this is a thing that I recommend if you can do. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You will figure out a different way to do it, but if that is a reality for you, I highly recommend it. Number 2, planning and actually looking at how much you owe. It's so important to actually look at the numbers themselves. I talked about it in my budgeting video earlier, actually looking at the things that you're doing and the money you're spending or need to pay is the first and most crucial step to doing anything, budgeting wise or saving wise or paying off your loans. Number 3 is setting goals and then seeing how they work for you. So set a standard goal. I'm going to save $100 this month, and see if that was realistic for you, and see also, okay, maybe I didn't meet it, but could I really have, I did go out for those 4 different, dinners with those 4 different people. Maybe I could have not done that, or, gone on a walk with them instead, or something like that. If you can switch up some of your habits you're in right now to further prioritize those goals of savings, that can really work too. I think also another really good mindset is once you have created a plan, it's not optional. It is a plan you're sticking to for as best you can. There's always going to be times where we fail or fall behind or can't meet it, but to have the mindset being that this money is going to this thing. It's not, oh, it's this catch-all pile of money that maybe I'll spend some of it on my loans, but maybe if I want to buy this really cool thing, I'll buy it with that money instead. Don't do that. That's not going to help you. I also want to say emotions really helped me in some parts of this experience. Mainly anger. I was really angry at the systems, as I've kind of parsed into this video, at the situation I was in. That really fueled sometimes a lot of my drive to pay these things off. And then also some kind of defiance too, where it was like, well, most people are saddled with debt, 10, 15, however many years. And this kind of feeling of, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be part of that statistic. That was also a very motivating and driving force. I know those 2 emotions aren't necessarily like things we recommend people to feel a lot of the times, but I think in certain situations, obviously not all the time, I didn't feel those, but they can be motivating in the right doses. Lastly, I also want to draw your attention to accepting the current situation you're in. So looking at it, coming to terms with it, and realizing that if you can't change it right now, for whatever reason that is, your parents aren't helping you pay for rent, or you have to take out a private loan, God forbid, but you have to take out a private loan because you need more money than the federal government is willing to give you. Don't fight it, and instead find ways to make the most of it. So you can save just a little bit of money and that makes you feel more secure in your budget, do that. If you're living paycheck to paycheck right now and there's no way in hell that you can put away even $2 towards whatever loan you have, that's the situation you're in right now. Don't judge yourself for it. Give yourself permission to not be doing that right now. That's also really okay. There will come times where you can pay for that. You can put money down towards your loans. I want to encourage creating constructive headspaces that can help you down the road when you are able to pay off your loans, and to really debunk those stories of worth and those feelings of anxiety that come all tangled up when we talk about money, and really finding ways to think about the current situation you're in a way that brings you light and joy, instead of worry and fear. It does you no good to shame yourself for things that are out of your control or out of your reach right now. And nobody's worth should ever be tied up in their ability to pay for anything, really. So yeah, those are my main takeaways from my journey of paying off my student loans. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. My name's Zoe. This is Found Finances, and come back soon for more. Thanks so much, guys.